Hi, my name is Catherine Deptuch.
Dolly.
Hannah.
Nina Ann Reyes Nelson.
Kelsey Sick.
Z's.
A lot of people ask me, like, so what ethnicity are you? I'm like, I am the world. I am the children. Anyway, I am lots of ethnicities. One second, I have a list.
I am both Polish and American. I was born in America, therefore making me an American citizen, but also both of my parents were born in Poland, therefore I'm also a Polish citizen.
And my parents are from two different worlds. My mom was from Mexicali, and my dad was from Bangladesh, an area close to Dhaka.
And I came to America when I was 15 years old from Malaysia. I came to America to pursue an acting career. My dad decided to put me in America to learn the craft at a young age.
My father grew up pretty, not strict Jewish, but I'd say like going to shul every Sunday and bar mitzvah Jewish. My mother is half Filipino. Her my grandmother came from the Philippines, and she married my grandfather, who is very like white Southern Tennessee, like gentleman type.
My mother, she comes from the United Kingdom. She actually comes from a small town in the north of England called Preston, and my father actually came from this town called Shalef in Algeria, and he spent half his time as a child in Shalef.
I'm Filipino, Swedish, Spanish, Chinese, German, Scandinavian, and I think I'm missing a few, but those are the major ones. My dad was born in Minnesota, but my mom was born in the Philippines. She immigrated here when she was 18. My parents met when my mom was, I think, 28. Yeah. So I guess you could say I'm a mutt. I'm a lot of things, so my home life is culturally a lot different from a lot of people I know.
I find it really interesting how the two different sides of my family are really separate. They're really polarizing, but they also have some similarities as well. That main similarity being their involvement in World War II. My mom is half Filipino, so my grandmother was from the Philippines, and my grandmother's mother, my great-grandmother, during World War II was actually part of the Manila black market and would basically sell marijuana to U.S. soldiers who were stationed in the Philippines, and thinking that they were cigarettes instead. My great-grandfather, her husband, was actually part of the U.S. Military, because they took a lot of Filipino people and put them into the military to fight the Japanese. And he went through this thing that was called the Bataan Death March, which is where the Japanese took a bunch of American and Filipino soldiers captive and made them walk 3 days straight with no food, no water, no anything, and if they stopped, they would get killed. The only reason my great-grandfather survived was because my great-grandmother, being in the black market, was able to get him food and the stuff he needed in order to survive through her connections. My father's side, on the other hand, was predominantly Eastern European Jewish. My grandfather's aunt, she lived in Hungary, and she barely made it out before they started putting Jews in concentration camps. Unfortunately for the rest of her sisters, that wasn't the case, and they were put in Auschwitz.
I spent all of my life in the United States, in Michigan and California, but we saw an opportunity to go to Germany because my dad got a relocation offer at an aerospace company. A couple of months in, I definitely began to feel more integrated into German society. So basically what happened was there was this soccer pitch that was right by my house. It was in this area with these high-rise apartments. There were about 20, 30 stories, and they had a lot of Turkish immigrants there, and they really enjoyed playing soccer, and there was a whole group of them that would always play there. And since I started getting into soccer, especially since soccer is such an important sport in Germany, I just decided to go and play. And they kind of knew the struggle that I had as an immigrant in Germany, because they were feeling the same things as well. Playing with them helped me, learn the language and feel more connected with people of Germany, because we were all, in the same boat. I went to a place called an international school in the International School of Hamburg. This was a school which only had about 50 people in my grade, and basically half of them were German, but the rest were people like me, international students who basically came from all over the world. And I think this was when I truly started to become comfortable in German culture. I could speak the language by then, but it was always great to have a fallback, and I was able to meet a lot of great friends. Like, I had friends from South Africa, from Korea. I even had a friend from Azerbaijan as well. I mean, what are the chances you were able to meet people like that, you know?
One of the most famous or traditional things we do in our family is that we make tamales together. So we all like help in making the masa, the cheese, and the chicken, and the sauce. And even my dad, who's from Bangladesh, he also works with us. He helps us make the tamales, and over time he has learned how to make it on his own, and he's also learned how to speak Spanish. All my siblings put like hot sauce and curry and all the spices into their tacos, but I'm like the only one with like a plain taco with only chicken and lettuce without spices.
One of my favorite memories about celebrating Christmas with my mom's side of the family is how many houses we visited a year. On average, we'd visit about 8 houses. So first we'd go to my Uncle Alcor, then to my Auntie Nora, then to my Auntie Ruby. The really cool thing about celebrating Christmas with my dad's family is just how close-knit we are. So instead of the 75, there's a close-knit 15 of us. We all congregate to the snowy little cabin in Mount Estes. It's about 2 hours from civilian life, so it's really cool to just be closed off with the family.
So in terms of my musical career, I think that my Polish heritage has really influenced what I've listened to and also what I've played. I've been playing piano for right now over 14 years, and I was able to actually play in Carnegie Hall this past year 3 times, which I don't think I would have been able to do that without a strong drive for music, but I think Chopin helped me a little bit. I was able to grow up on great Polish filmmakers like Roman Polanski, Andrzej Wajda, Janusz Zaorski, and I actually had the privilege to meet Janusz Zaorski, and he was showing his latest documentary that he had made, which had been a compilation of all different Polish films, and I was able to actually meet him and talk to him with both languages, both English and Polish, and that kind of was a wonderful opportunity for me to meet, a Polish filmmaking icon, but also kind of inspired me to continue on in pursuing my film career.
So before I came here, my friends in Malaysia were like, Chelsea, you're not gonna have any friends in America. You're just gonna be an international student, hanging out with other international students because, that's what they all do. Asian groups were very, very shut down. People felt like, oh, they're really rude, they're really exclusive, they're really, they're not open. And so I came in with a mentality to stay away from any Asians and not have any Asian friends.
I feel like, in those little, circles where you have to say a fun fact about yourself, I've always said that I was part Filipino and part Jewish, and that, oh yeah, I totally, eat pork on, Christmas and stuff, and I don't care. I'm, totally not kosher. I just find that the difference between me being Jewish and Filipino is just so, different. Some people, definitely people identify me more as being white because I do look more white than Filipino, but I definitely identify myself as still quarter Filipino. It's a big part of my identity because my grandmother was still from there. It's interesting for me because I'm not Filipino enough, nor am I Jewish enough. I wasn't Jewish enough to have a bat mitzvah. I'm not Filipino enough to speak Tagalog or anything. A lot of Filipino people at my school, whenever I told them I was Filipino, they would be really surprised and they'd say, prove it. And I only know about food and the fact that my grandmother came from the Philippines.
I've been acting for TV and film since I was in 7th grade. And I think one thing that really works in my favor for working in the entertainment industry is how racially ambiguous I am. That being said, I find it really important to represent whatever race or culture I'm representing accurately. So one of my biggest roles was a guest star role in NCIS Los Angeles, and the name of my role was Katira. I was cast as a 12-year-old Taliban sniper, which I've never heard of happening before. They really were surprised by emotions and the things that I was doing acting-wise, and the fact that I sounded really comfortable with the language. It kind of just surprised me that no one would have known what I was saying. you know?
And so it really hit me because I picked songs. I was a musical theater major as well. I picked songs from like Legally Blonde and like I Dreamed a Dream. And I never really sung from Mulan, like Reflection, even though it's a great song, or like Miss Saigon, like many great songs from just Asian characters. So I went to class and I took out like Legally Blonde songs and I started singing it. And my teacher was like, Chelsea, you need to know that in your entire life, you will never be cast as Elle Woods, never in your life. And so, and the class basically laughed, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm not blonde. But I didn't know that mattered. I thought the story mattered more than, like, the look, you know? So one day, I cried before of short film because me and my mom was, like, having an interaction, and we got really emotional. So the next day, my eyelids were swollen, and they were very, like thick. And so I was filming, and this guy behind the camera said, Chelsea, you look really good on camera. And I thought that the reason why he said that was just because my eyelids were swollen, so I had a thicker double eyelid. And so every day I went back to my room, and I would like look, I made a new crease. And so I just hated the way I looked.
There was a lot of different interesting things in Algeria that I would never have imagined anywhere else. For instance, you would see people walking on the sides of the freeways and even walking across the freeways as well. And on the same car journeys, I easily saw people who were on the side of the street and they were selling live chickens. The scenery was absolutely breathtaking. When we were just driving along, we just saw amazing mountains with, there was actually snow on top of a lot of the mountains too, and these freeways would carve through the mountains, and you just basically get a lot of great visuals to look at.
And I know that I'm always flying into Poland. When I'm on the plane, I can see out the window that there are red roofs, something that I don't always see when I'm back home in New Jersey. When I've been in Zakopane, my grandmother would make mushroom soup, zupa grzybowa, which I would always look forward to. It's one of my favorite things. Or my grandfather would get osypki. Just those kind of warm memories are the reason why I always love going back to Poland, and it always stays in my mind, and I would always love to make a film there.
And I just want to go into my roots and my history to know what stories I can bring out of it to tell. And after 4 years of hustling, I finally got my main protagonist role in a play next semester of a Chinese American Student Association play. And I'm really excited because I feel like after all these years, it's true that the bubble that I was living in on top of a mountain, there's so many other opportunities here. There's so many students who feel the same way and are very open to race and how people look, but more focused on the stories as well.
I feel more closely attached to my Mexican culture, mainly because my mom's family lives in Southern California.
I did learn both at the same time, English and Polish, and that kind of has been a really interesting experience, and I'm really grateful to my parents for making sure that I learn Polish early on.
I just feel like my existence is like really not merely one thing or the other thing, but just kind of a mix of the two.
I don't identify with just one thing. I think the beauty of it is that we infuse a lot of different cultures into our food, into our religious culture, into just how we live.
During most of my school years, most people identified me more as Bangladeshi on my dad's side, mainly because they saw my last name. They're like, oh, that's a Bangladeshi name. But when people actually see me in person and they don't know my name, they feel like I'm more into the Mexican side of, appearance. And it kind of reminded me of a situation I had a couple of weeks ago in college when I was traveling back home. I went to buy a ticket to the train, and a lady approached me and she asked me how to buy a ticket, but she automatically talked to me in Spanish, like not knowing whether or not I spoke Spanish or what my culture was. And automatically I also spoke back to her in Spanish, like not even realizing she was speaking to me in Spanish.
When people ask me what I associate with most, I honestly can't even give a right answer, because I was reading something by Oscar Isaac in an interview that he had, the guy that played Poe in Star Wars, and basically he said that he himself, he felt like he was absolutely everything. Because when people asked him what he was, he looked like a lot of different races in general, and I feel like that's what I could be myself. And the experiences that I had of me living in Germany, and me being of Algerian heritage, which I'm very proud of, and me being of British heritage, which I'm proud of, and living in the United States as well, I think that's all shaped me into a global citizen.
And it's funny because I feel like I'm truly a mix. I'm neither just Polish and I'm neither just American. I kind of get the best of both worlds, whether it's cuisine, whether it's beautiful language, beautiful culture. I love both America and I love Poland.
It's good because I still get to meet some people that I can kind of relate to, and with my weird ethnicity mix. Like I met this girl named Nina who's also part Filipino, and we can talk about Filipino food and how our crazy Filipino family dynamic where both of our families are huge, and how our grandparents have 7 siblings or something.
There are very, not stereotypical, but there are a lot of very specific things that resonate in the Filipino family. And I was actually talking to my friend Hannah when I first met her about our lolas and how we celebrate Christmas, and it was just so funny to see how similar our celebrations were.
I can't say that I particularly have one nationality. I basically have been to all these different places, and it shaped me for the better, and I wouldn't trade anything about that at all. I definitely keep all the things I've had and all the experiences, and my nationality is the world.